No farm is ever truly complete without cows, and when farming regeneratively, they can be your greatest ally in rebuilding really healthy soils. Well, we were so excited to start building our herd of grass-fed beef and to rebuild our pastures, even though we knew it was a really good rule of thumb to make sure that you're prepared before you bring animals home to your farm. We let our excitement get the best of us this time, and we brought home 3 sweet cows before we were really ready for it. So here's the story of all the chaos and fun that ensued. Our original plan for getting our cows had us getting them 2 weeks after the date that we actually picked them up. So we would have had enough time to get things ready. But when we got the call from our guy who we were buying them from, he asked us if we could come out on spring break instead. And of course we wanted to be accommodating. He's a super, super nice guy and was really helping us out getting our herd started. So we said yes, of course, and not quite thinking through all of the problems that we were getting ourselves into. So we had a mad rush the night before we went out to get the cows to buy a waterer and get some hay for them and get our livestock trailer ready to go. We didn't have any kind of paddock set up yet, which is something that you need to unload them. And obviously these cows didn't know us, and so they weren't quite comfortable with us at first. So we had we made our runs to Tractor Supply, got all of the supplies that we thought we needed, and did our best to get set up pretty much last minute. So the next day, Mason and my dad go out to get the cows. They get home probably at 5 p.m. that evening, still with no paddock set up. So they left the cows in the trailer for half an hour while they set up a really temporary little paddock area. And then we unloaded the cows. So at this point we have water, we have hay, we have a small paddock set up for them, which we know is going to be temporary because we really want to utilize managed intensive rotational grazing. That's the system that we want to use, and I'll let Mason explain that to you later. But for now, we were ready to unload the cows for the very first time. So we pull the livestock trailer back up to this small little paddock. We used the old gate that was at the front of our property to pen them in. So we open the gate thinking they're just gonna nicely come out. One cow comes out, super easy. The second cow comes out, super easy. The third cow is just terrified, clearly, and has no intention of coming out of that livestock trailer. I think it took us almost 2 hours to get her out, but not without a lot of interference from our dog, who was freaking out that there were new friends on the farm. He could not stop barking at them, was totally freaking the cows out. At one point, our small little guy, Gene, he escaped, of course, and ran halfway across the property. My poor dad had to run after him with Kai, our dog, Kai's chasing him in the opposite direction, has not quite come into his shepherding abilities yet. So he's sort of shepherding him all the way down across the pastures. I start running after to try and help, and then I hear Mason back in the livestock trailer with the third cow saying, "Big Mama's getting out, Big Mama's getting out." So our biggest cow, our mama cow, she's starting to escape too. So I'm like running back as fast as I can with my big old pregnant belly, trying to keep the other cow from escaping. So my dad now, he's on his own. We have no idea where he is at this point. He and Kai have gone off with the other cow. So Mason and I successfully stopped our big mama cow from getting out. She's back in the pen, and then I'm just there to help Mason, I guess, get the third cow out. Unsuccessfully, might I add, until my dad shows up with Kai, who this time is being very helpful, shepherding the little cow back the correct way. So my dad's exhausted, and he had found this long switch kind of stick that he was using as a fence to try and, help the cows realize, oh, this is the fence, go this way, go this way. So he's shepherding the cows with this long stick. And I think at this point my dad was he'd had enough. So he gets in the livestock trailer and just basically pushes the third cow out. So finally we have all 3 cows in the paddock. Total chaos, but they're there and they're eating their hay, and they seem to hate us at this point, but they don't know us yet.
So we got these cows wrangled back into the pen, and the next challenge we had to overcome was how we were going to milk the largest of the mamas, Tina. When milking a cow, You need a place for them to be secure. Especially a cow like these that are beef cows. They're not used to being milked by humans. They're typically milked by their calves. We had to figure out how we were going to do all that and do it fast, because Tina had a calf on her when we bought her. And that means she's producing milk for the calf. If you're not weaned off of your calf, then that means we have to be the ones milking her, or there can be problems like mastitis. And if you know anything about mastitis, it can be very painful. And we want to treat our animals well. So we were in a race against the clock to get her milked, which the first step in that was building this milking stand. So the next morning, once we finally got them in their pen and wrangled in, we had to run out and build this as fast as we could. We had a design in mind, but we had to build this as soon as we could and get this out here. It's pretty heavy, pretty darn heavy. It's very sturdy. So once the milking stand was built and out here, we knew we had to wrangle Tina in. And for cows that are beef cows, they're not used to being milked. So this was a first-time experience for her, as well as a first-time experience for us. So we're trying our hardest to figure out how we get her in the stand, and it took me, Steve, and Jenny about 3 hours of trying to goad her in with our hands. We're playing defense and trying to push her, gently into the milking stand, and tried to attract her with hay, and nothing was working. She wasn't having it. She was not interested in getting whatever this contraption was in her eyes. She was not interested in getting in. We pretty much gave up after 3 hours and thought, man, we gotta rethink this. We gotta come up with a new plan. And that's when we sent a text out to our community group, a group of friends from church, and man, the response was phenomenal. We had 2 different couples come out that same day to help us wrangle this cow in. And of course, I'm sure they're thinking, here are these crazy people randomly texting us, hey, does anyone know how to wrangle a cow into a milking stand? And I'm sure they're all rolling their eyes. You know who you are. And luckily, we had some experience in the group. There were people that had experience with cows. And they also knew people that had experience with cows. One couple brought over a halter and some alfalfa, which the cows really loved. And the halter is the secure harness that goes across the cow's face. It's a way you can pull the cow around without hurting her. And the other couple brought these big cattle panels, these big red cattle panels that really help create a lane to get her into the milking stand. And they came out and helped so much. I mean, I do not know what we would have done without them. So thank you. So once we got that in order, we got our friends to help us. They helped us get her up to the milking stand. And finally, she's at the very end and we can't get her over that final edge. We had a recommendation that we hook a rope to the halter, pull it through this head gate right here, and then through the fence and hook it up to our side-by-side and just pull her in. And once we did that, she fought it every step of the way. But once we got her in the head gate, we tied it down, we loosened the slack in the rope, and all was well. She calmed down, we got some alfalfa in front of her, and she was distracted and just let the milking happen. No kicking happened, thankfully, at that moment. And it was just amazing to see it happen, to feel like we could do it, we could get it done. And that first milking was super stressful. The next one, we had another friend come over, a friend of a friend come over and really just help us out. He was much more comfortable with the cows than we were, and he was like, you guys have some really docile cows. These are amazing cows. And we are over here thinking, I don't know, I guess, thank you. We had just kind of more nervous about it because we'd never done this before. It's all new. But he was comfortable, got right behind the cow, pushed her right in, showed us how. It made it seem so much easier than we were making it. And I guess that's what experience does for you. So we got her milked that second time. And so then the third time is when we're doing it all on our own. And Jenny and I had done it, and we did the whole process, got her in, pulled her in with the side-by-side, and got her milked. And we were like, yes, we did it by ourselves. Victory! We can do this. We're farmers. We can, it's all as well. We can do it, guys. We can do this. So then we take the milking stuff away. We untie the head gate. She starts moving moving around in the milking stand, and I'm like, I'm trying to pull there's a back stop so that she can't back out. I'm trying to pull that out, and she's putting so much pressure on it that I can't get it out. She's wedged it against the end, and somehow with all her might gets turned around facing the opposite direction in the milking stand. And I'm like trying to pull the thing out, and finally I get it out, and as she's like frantically getting out of the milking stand, her leg slips behind her, and it gets caught under these boards on the side, and it scratches her leg. She starts limping away, and Jenny and I look at each other and I'm like, what? No, we thought we had this, and now she's hurt. Our cow is hurt. We just spent this money, and we can't. We've hurt our cow, and she's never going to be the same. She's injured. That leg's gone. We're going to have to amputate it. We're thinking worst case scenario, of course. And we're just, we go inside, just heads hung, thinking, man, I thought we could do this, and clearly we're not cut out for this. And we come out the next day. Come to check on her. We're praying all night. Please be okay. Please be okay. And we come out again, and she's fine. She's not even bothered, not one bit. And you just learn that cows are tougher than you think they are. You're not a failure. You're not a total failure. Things work out, and we were just thankful that nothing, it wasn't any worse damage. It's just a slight scrape, and we were overreacting. Because we don't know. We're new to this, and that's what happens. But we learned so much from this entire process. I'm so much more comfortable around the cows. I'm so much more comfortable leading them and getting behind them, and they really are really sweet cows. So it's not as intimidating as it was. And then now we're milking her twice a day, and things are just going so smooth. It's so much easier than it was. The mountain of milking the cow that seemed so high on day one, now weeks later, it's no big deal. It's just another daily chore. It's something that I'm comfortable with. I can do this. I'm a farmer. I'm a cow farmer. So with milking under our belt, we knew, all right, we've got them milked. Next, we got to move them. And that's where managed intensive rotational grazing comes in. And I think I'm going to do something a little special for that. So stay tuned.
Time to give the people what they want. It's time to do some real farming. We're going to talk about managed intensive rotational grazing. Let's get into it. Managed intensive rotational grazing is a regenerative system in which livestock are rotated throughout the pastures in order to improve forage, quality and quantity, improve biodiversity, and also improve manure distribution and soil health. Rotational grazing is nothing new. Dividing up a paddock in order to prevent overgrazing is something that goes back to the earliest agrarian societies. What is relatively new and developed by people like Alan Savory or Greg Judy is intensive rotational grazing. And that's where you're dividing up a paddock into a much smaller area and only grazing for a short amount of time. The heart of the idea stems from giving pasture the optimum amount of time for regrowth. Short grazing periods stimulate growth, and long grazing periods or continuous grazing periods destroy pastures. A simple 4-paddock system using temporary step-in posts as well as a polywire can allow the animals to be easily rotated, starting in the top left and ending in the bottom left, as a 4-day rotational system with water located in the middle, that way you're not moving the water every time you move the animals, allows for each area to be grazed and then each area to have rest. As you can see in this, a short grazing period and a long recovery period allows for a strong and deep root response, whereas a continuous grazing period with no rest only allows for short roots and unhealthy pastures. The benefits are numerous, but I'll just name a few. And if you'd like to get any more in-depth, Greg Judy, Alan Savory, both of these gentlemen have pioneered the intensive rotational grazing here in America and in Africa, and you can find their videos on YouTube very easily. But I'll just list a few for time. For the animals are exposed to a wider variety of forage. They're not just going back to the same patch of alfalfa that they would in a big paddock with continuous grazing. as well as getting a lot more exercise. They're moving every single day. They're required to. One really big benefit is the fewer parasite and disease buildup. When moving animals daily in a managed intensive rotational grazing system, that buildup is much fewer and almost eliminated completely. This is huge for our system. That allows us to raise animals pretty much drug-free, whereas a conventional system, they're typically kept in one area, not moved at all, and that disease becomes quite a big problem that they usually have to treat with some sort of medication, a lot of times antibiotics, and we all know that gets in the meat. And so that allows us to raise our animals completely drug-free. Lastly is the more evenly distributed manure, which allows us to have healthier pastures. This kind of leads into the environmental benefits, such as soil being improved. You're building up soil, which is a more long-term growth-oriented strategy, as well as reducing runoff and promoting healthy growth in your pastures. You're allowing like we talked about earlier, the root response to be strong and deep. The last set of benefits comes in the form of the farm benefit. For a farm, it's completely scalable. When you have a system of just 3 cows like we do, it's easy to scale that up. It's not much more work to add cows to the system. I'm already rotating the cows daily, and that way you can increase the amount of cows without having to continuously build infrastructure in. Land is a limited resource on any farm, and this allows you to have an efficient use of space in order to have healthier pastures, lets you have more amount of animals on a smaller amount of pasture. That way, you're really taking advantage of the growth of the health of the soil, as well as the health of the forage, which allows you to grow your farm. Lastly, it's a very flexible system, allowing you to use a variety of livestock of your choosing, as well as using it in a variety of areas, forest or pasture, depending on what you want. This system is in line with the way that God sees growth. Slow-moving, long-term focused, built from the ground up, as opposed to an antibiotic-ridden, quick fix, microwave, conventional farm. And we believe that this leads to healthy animals as well as healthy, delicious, nutrient-dense meat.
Well, there you have it. Tina, Louise, and Jean have fresh water. We're moving them onto a brand new fresh pasture each and every day. Tina's getting milked twice a day by Mason. Our comfortability level with cows has gone way up, and our cows are very comfortable with us now too, which just feels so good. We're actually doing it. We're farmers. We've also learned a lot in this experience that, most importantly, don't get animals until you're prepared for them. If you saw our calendar from last week, you would have seen go pick up our goats a week after we were picking up our cows. And after going through everything that we went through with the cow fiasco, we canceled that appointment and decided to wait until we actually have everything set up for goats before we bring them home. So the stress is not worth it. We figured that out the hard way. Hopefully in the future we'll make the right choice and the wise choice from here on out. But even with all the stress, it was a heck of a lot of fun, and we're so glad that we did it. And we've got 3 beautiful cows here. How can we complain? And we're looking forward to some really yummy grass-fed beef in the future, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out.